That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to cook water before I drink it, because there's a bunch of lead.
Oh, I am too. I have a bunch of lead in my water. But I have
funny.
a reverse osmosis filter for my tap, so I don't die from lead poisoning.
See, yeah, that's a great thing, and my mom also got me I guess she got all my roommates to a reverse osmosis filter, or just a good water filter. I got it for Christmas. It's April. It's not installed yet.
Uh-oh.
I've just been raw dogging lead. Holy shit. Dude, we got it.
John, do you think your lead consumption has anything to do with your draft picks in the current draft that we're doing?
I think that drinking lead has really kind of given me a new look on life, and it specifically has allowed me to be more focused. I feel like ever since the lead levels in my town have gotten kind of dangerous, and I've continued to drink sink water, ever since then, I feel like I've kind of been able to lock in better. Like I'm able to. It's fixed my ADHD. And I think that because of that, my picks in the draft have been a lot more focused and driven.
I think if you drink enough of that sink water because it's focusing you so much, you're going to open your third eye and become I don't know, even more of a visionary about everything.
Armani did it. I'm going to kill myself.
No!
Dude,
kidding me.
Give me a second.
Hold on, I gotta get the stick figure. I gotta get the stick figure. Oh, brother, this fucking guy, dude.
I'm taken aback.
I'm astounded.
I knew he was gonna do it. I knew it.
He said it's been fun.
Oh man! And here I thought there was decency. And here I thought there was decency in this world, dude.
Ethan, can you think of any '80s wrestlers that Armani loves that he did not pick?
No, he doesn't watch wrestling that far back.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. You're fucked. Oh, I was gonna say pick a wrestler he loves and job them out for the entire draft, for the entire
hold on.
game.
That's what the wild card is for.
Oh my god, is there any wrestler that he's obsessed with that the kid could get with the wild card and job out for the whole season?
Yeah. Who's Armani's favorite wrestler? I need to take him for the wild card.
Hashimoto.
Hashimoto's got drafted though, has he not?
No, he didn't. That was one of the big things, is that nobody picked Hashimoto.
Oh well.
Are you seriously gonna make Shinya Hashimoto fucking job?
But I'm actually taken aback by that. I
can't believe he did it. I cannot believe he did it.
Actually, you can't hurt me. I've walked the David Goggins road.
You know what this reminds me of? Hold on.
In 1984.
This is literally 1984.
Wow. I'm actually disgusted. I'm disgusted.
You know who somebody in here specifically did slot into their roster? The man that we're here to talk about today. Finally, after such a long time of waiting for it, after multiple versions of this episode have been lost to the ether, never to be recovered again, after we created potentially the greatest and most YouTube boot-offable thumbnail in human history, that includes Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper, we're here to talk about none other than Tarzan Tarzan Goto. Jom, take it away.
Yeah, this is as Ethan said, a long time coming. Just a little bit of information for the people. In one of the first recordings we ever did, I got to pick the matches, and I picked some very great stuff. I picked a Karisu squash, and I picked an incredible different style fight. That was lost. We actually do have the recording. It's just not. We can't upload it. It's not the audio quality is. It's actually unlistenable for long periods of time. Then we did a whole episode covering the Tarzan Goto matches from the Indie World events in 1998, I believe. We did a whole episode covering the two matches, him versus Chainsaw Charlie and him with Aoyagi and Azteca against Kai and Tai DX. Both of those matches are incredible. I'm pretty sure both of them are on my top 100 ever. Like, I fucking love those matches. The recording's lost. I don't know the full detail. I mean, I do know the full details. It's just there's not a lot of details to know. Ethan has a computer made from a toaster, and that toaster burnt the bread, and that shit's gone.
The details? I think I figured out the details.
Did you figure out the details? Okay, I want to hear.
Well, this isn't 100% what it is. I have a strong feeling that the recording, because the day I downloaded, or the day we recorded it, I downloaded it onto my computer. I think it was kind of late, or I was doing something else, so then I fell asleep. But I did press enter when it did finally download. So it was downloading at night.
Right.
Then I think this was one of the first outages on my on my drive happened, because I have tragically horrific terrible news for you that all three of you, Craig also knows this. But my wrestling hard drive, my 2 terabyte wrestling hard drive has just kicked the bucket. I can no longer upload anything onto it. And I think that was the first time where it was restarting to try and see if it could work again, or if it actually was going to kick the bucket. So it just did not download. And Craig has this thing where if you only download, or where you can only download the audio after 6 days of whenever it was uploaded. Yeah. So I thought it was downloaded because I had the zip file on my computer. It just wasn't full of the audio recordings. But
it's a brutal life, man.
It is a brutal life. All of that is to say, we have tried to bring Jomcore to the masses multiple times, but the deep state has thwarted us on every single occasion. I am not letting that happen.
I believe that Joe Biden has been stopping me from spreading my truth. Let's ignore the fact that the first episode of the podcast is covering my favorite match ever. He is stopping me from spreading my truth. But today is the day.
We're no longer under the Biden regime, buddy. This is the Takata nation.
Exactly. Takata is here with Pequeño Joker as his VP. And
his VP.
And wrestling has never been better. And I have never been better. And it's finally time to talk about Tarzan Goto. Really, there's no reason. I'm not going to sit here and go into lore on Tarzan Goto. I'll give basic information. AJPW trainee. At some point, he moves to America, both to live with his new wife Despina and to work wrestling there. He works in Memphis. He works all over. He eventually moves to Florida with her, and he works the indies there as Ho Chi Win, which is an incredible name. Ho Chi Win. He works as Ho Chi Win. Yes, and also he's a winner, so Ho Chi Win.
Oh, good.
So true. So true.
He works Florida. He wrestles. I think that's how guys like Mike Awesome get into FMW. I'm probably wrong about that, but I know Goto was working in the same territory as Mike Awesome and as that other big tall dude that Mike Awesome came with originally. And the other Florida guys that showed up in FMW, they were all working the same territory, which we have very limited footage of, but we do have some matches. He comes back to Japan eventually because Onita is like, hey, I want to start a new promotion and I want you to come because they're old friends. They're both All Japan guys. Goto comes over, starts wrestling in Japan again. He gets approval from Baba to become like an FMW guy. He never even left All Japan originally. He left to go like work in the territories, and then he got married, and he was like, well, I don't want to go back because I have a wife and kids now. And Baba was like, Baba didn't even find out. Baba just kind of assumed. He just kind of knew because that's what happens sometimes. Guys will go to America and they just stay. But that's all to say. Goto comes back. He works FMW. He's a vital part of FMW. He's like the trainer for the dojo. He's a main eventer with Onita. He's like Onita's right-hand man and like the second biggest good guy. And then he turns on Onita and becomes the biggest bad guy. Eventually, he leaves. The reason is up in the air, but we know now. Mr. Ganosuke has explained it. For a while, the idea that was spread was that Tarzan Goto was asked by Onita to do a gimmick where he would pretend to be Shoko Asahara, who was the leader of the Aum Shinrikyo cult, which had very recently done I believe it was a sarin gas attack on all of the trains in Japan. It killed like 100-something people. It was awful. And Goto looks a lot like Shoko Asahara, like shockingly so. So I believe the story.
Asahara with big marks.
Yeah, exactly. I believe the story was originally spread by the old owner, the last owner of FMW. I cannot remember his name for the life of me, and it's awful. But he wrote an autobiography, and I believe in that autobiography he said it. I could be getting that entirely wrong, but it was in somebody's autobiography that this was said. It's been disproven. I think somebody told Bahu like years before the Ganosuke video came out. He told Bahu like, yeah, this is bullshit. He didn't tell the full situation to Bahu because he's like, I don't feel like I should. I feel like this needs to be kept under wraps because it's business. But that story's fake. Eventually, Ganosuke did tell the story on his YouTube channel. I think it was just like a money dispute, or it was a dispute about who was going to go over. Maybe I cannot remember. It was really though. It was just a wrestling business dispute. Goto was not happy about how it was going, and he left, and he took some of his boys. So Goto becomes a big deal on the Indies, and this is all important. He becomes a big deal on the Indies. He starts his own fed called Shin FMW, which means real FMW, which is fucking awesome. He just works the Indies a bunch, and the show we're covering today is the second ever Shin FMW show. It's the first of Shin FMW being like a full promotion, because there's a show in '95 called We Are the Real FMW, like all caps in English. That's just a one-off though. But then the actual like running a promotion thing starts in '97, and this is the first show of that. This is Shin FMW Yamato Damas 2 97. This is from June of '97. This is a show, and we might as well say it now.
Yeah.
Tarzan Goto wrestles in every single match on this show, from bell to bell, all of them. There are 6 matches on the show, 3 singles, 3 tag, and this is a very, really, really powerful show for a lot of reasons. I do want to note right to start off though, when the show begins, it's like showing like footage of the fans and everything, and then Goto comes out to like talk to the fans. He is wearing a shirt that says "Believe in Tomorrow," and he holds up a scroll that says "Social Reform" on it. So this is a show of Tarzan Goto. From what I understand based on like what I've read and kind of the air of everything that's happening on the show, this is Goto kind of like making a declaration about the indies themselves, because a lot of the guys on the show are, at this point, they were considered like pretty vital parts of the independents, or like the guys that will be vital parts. And when you look at it,
it's a huge roster of like who's who on this card already.
Yeah, there are some guys that are like genuinely like if there's a pro wrestling Hall of Fame or whatever the fuck, there are a few guys on the show that will be in it. Not just as independent wrestlers, just in general. In fact, there's one guy who does not stay as an independent wrestler. Within a few years after this, he ends up becoming a major part of one of the biggest promotions in the fucking country.
Yeah.
But this is a show of Goto trying to make a declaration of these are the most important guys in this sphere of wrestling, and I'm going to wrestle all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Man.
I think we should just fucking start off with the first match.
Yeah.
Goto versus Niyama. This is Goto wrestling one of his, I believe, Niyama trained under Goto, and at this point, Niyama has just left FMW. He leaves FMW at the end of April, and this is in June. So he's a fresh face on the indie scene.
Also, before you continue, I have one thing to note about this show in particular and like the way that it's structured, because I feel like even more than the rest of the shows, I feel like you guys might disagree with me on this, but I think this is one of the ones that really showcases Tarzan Goto's ethos more than anything else. Not just his ethos, but his like kind of nebulous, dichotomous place in the wrestling world. Because when you hear somebody who wrestles on every single show on a card, or every single match on a card, you usually think like top babyface champion trying to show off why he's the absolute best and why nobody should be compared to him. You could see it as an arrogant heel thing, but I would like normally consider that something a babyface would do. But Goto's out there mauling people. I don't know if there's a single match here. Well, there are a couple where it doesn't happen, but in at least half of the matches, he breaks the chair seat off of a chair over somebody's head by smashing it into their face.
Oh yeah, multiple times.
So good.
Actually, I will say, I think that does happen in every match. I think the only match where it might not happen, because I just cannot remember, is Goto versus Okano. Because I know for a fact, the first time he hits Okano with the chair, it doesn't pop out, and it's maybe the grossest chair shot of the whole show. Because, like, it's like when you shoot a paintball gun and the paintball doesn't, like, break. Like, the chair popping out almost saves these guys' lives. Because it's not just sitting there and, like, taking the full brunt of it. It does not break for Okano, and Goto did swing at full strength, so it looks like it kills him. But I think he throws a chair shot after, and it pops out on that one. So I think for every single match, he does the chair seat pop out chair shot.
As he should. It's like it's such a. I said it when we were watching it. Whatever they do to manufacture these chairs, they got to mass produce them and then ship them out to every company in the continental world.
Oh my god, yeah!
Just
Like
every location. Put them in Thailand. Put them in Qatar if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that has a wrestling promotion, they gotta have chairs built exactly like this.
Yeah, 100%,
1,000%.
They go
flying. They go
Dude.
flying.
I feel like it wouldn't be the most comfortable to sit on because, like, one, if you sit down too fast, you're going like you're going flying.
you go through the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no,
which is also an important note that it's not like, oh, these were chairs that they had under the ring and they had like gimmicked them. No, Goto goes out and takes chairs from the fans, like makes them get out of their seats and use it. These are chairs that at bare minimum have the capacity to seat people. They're not weak chairs. They're not gimmicked, which is horrifying to think about when you consider what he fucking does with them. But yeah, it's an incredibly formatted show. And I said this while we were watching it, but this is a show where not only is it like, oh, I'm introducing the future and I'm declaring the future almost. It's also kind of power scaling. I'm declaring the future and I'm also declaring that I'm better than everyone in it. Which is
true. It's a flag planting statement with his face on the flag staff.
Yeah, like he's not only like he cares about the future of indie wrestling. He is that was always the thing with Goto, is that he cares about the future and he wants to foster a good future. But Goto's also very aware that he is sick as fuck and he is not going to take a backseat to everyone else. So it's a future that he's in control of. But yeah, the Niyama match fucking good match. I will say that I'll probably say that about every match. Every match on the show I think is good. I think every match has their own thing going for it. Nyama match is probably the most interesting to start out with because it starts with Goto doing like chain wrestling. Like they work on the mat for like a solid couple minutes. Fucking Goto's maintaining headlocks. There's a great point where Niyama goes to do the international thing of the headlock into head scissors into kip up. Goto not only like holds it, he also does like a full stretch forward to like compress the neck. Like Goto is, we always talk about Goto's brawling and his talents there. Goto's just a good fucking wrestler. And he's like not really given the opportunity to do stuff like this a lot of the time. And getting to see him do it, and he's like doing it well for somebody who is like his size and his style is like really fucking impressive.
Yeah.
It is.
I think this is definitely the best one to start with too, because it just, I mean, it's kind of hard not to with Goto, but it establishes a precedent. Very clearly establishes here's what the rest of the show is about. Not like you wouldn't know what the rest of the show is about, given that it's Tarzan Goto, and you could probably take a solid, educated guess. But even so, it's nice to just get confirmation and get it out of the way that yeah, you're getting a Tarzan Goto produce.
Yeah, because we start out, it starts out with the grappling, but then, and I will also note, everything on the show is clipped. I think we get at most half of the main event. I think that's the most we get of every match. It's the chain grappling, and then it clips, and it goes straight to Goto throwing Niyama out of the ring, and he just starts chucking chairs at him, and eventually he pulls him over to the side, grabs a guardrail, and just drops it directly on his stomach, like vertically. It's so nasty, and that kind of sets a precedent too. Is that Goto in all these matches is giving these guys room to show why they're good and why he has so much faith in them. And then he takes over and then he just owns them. Like that's every match in a sense. And I love the format. It's a fucking great format, especially for this type of show. But God, it's really funny because he fucking does that brawling, pulls him back in, and it's pretty much just full domination. Like he's hitting the Ghostbuster, which is his fucking brainbuster, which is insane. Like vertical spike directly onto the head. He's killing Niyama. Niyama eventually gets a comeback in, and he's like hitting like hard kicks, and he hits some lariats. It's one big lariat, goes for the pin, one count.
I think I might be wrong. He doesn't get like he gets like a barely 2 across every single match on this card, right? Like I'm pretty sure the closest he gets to losing, quote unquote, is a barely 2 at the very end.
I was gonna say, yeah, barely 2 at the end is like the most he got throughout the entire show. Niyama fucking 1 count kick out. He starts Uranagi-ing Goto, and then Goto hits a second Ghostbuster. Doesn't even pin him, pulls him back up. Goto facebuster, 1, 2, 3, and Goto wins. The first match is 14 minutes long.
Yeah, you get maybe like 5 of it if you're lucky on the actual broadcast. Which losing footage always sucks and is cringe, but at the same time, I don't know if I'd be able to like stomach like a full 2.5 hour show of Goto doing all of this, just because I think it would take me out of it a little bit to believe that this guy could really run this many matches back to back to back.
I think. Well, I will say this
most
is
of them are tags though. Most of them are tags.
Most of them are tags, and I do want to say that like I fully agree with that. This isn't to say like, oh, I hate watching wrestlers I like, because I love watching wrestlers I like, but watching a wrestler have like a bunch of matches at once for a long period kind of fucking sucks. Like even if I like them, like there's a certain amount of like burnout that you get. I think watching it live, it's probably very different because it's almost watching this guy go through this Herculean contest of strength and wills.
Yeah, just continuing to go and not just staying on it always.
Yeah, it's probably a really fascinating thing to see live.
Period would be like the time period wouldn't be like a detractor as it would be for somebody watching it outside. It would be like the main draw. How long can this motherfucker go? for this long. But like if you're watching it outside of that live experience, which like this was obviously, as all great wrestling should be, tailored towards the people who were watching it live. But like yeah, watching that whole show back in its entirety, if it existed, I'm not sure if I would watch like the complete show. Obviously not all in one sitting. I would watch each of the matches independently, but it just kind of depends on how long of a gap I would give myself between watching one and then watching another. And I also get that feeling about when we miss Tape Cake, but it also, like, in some ways, in some instances, not here because there's so much missing, but when it's like a 2-minute commercial break, sometimes I can live with that way more than I can with. Because at least we got that much of the tape, you know?
I'm a tape defeatist because I mainly focus myself on a lot of like 90s shit in Japan, and brother, they had to fit that shit into the VHS tapes. I'm too used to the fade into title screen, fade out into more clips. I'm way too used to that fucking format, and I know for a fact why. Because I think a lot of these VHS tapes are produced by the same company. Because like, of course they are. Like that's the company that produces wrestling. So like their format for doing it is like on all the fucking war tapes, on a bunch of the like 90s tapes in general. I don't care anymore. Like I'll rate a match that's like half of it's missing. I'll rate it like I watched the full thing because I'm just so used to it at this point.
I'm okay with like talking about a clip match as long as I clarify that it's clipped.
Yes.
Like I'll talk about like Dick Togo versus Don Fuji every single day that I'm alive. But I'd also have to be like, yeah, most of it's like been obliterated by Gawara Swiss Cheesemaker. But you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like I don't think there's like that much evil in like a clipped match, you know?
No.
I like that one like bloody Iron Man tag where she like hangs herself from Cork and all. Like
yes, the JD Star tag, I think.
Yeah,
with,
I gotta talk about that.
Shit.
I don't care if it's missing like half the match. Gotta talk about that.
Yeah,
you know?
Sumi Sakai's like dying for us. Like we gotta talk about that.
Yeah, and this show is a good example of that for sure. You know?
Yeah. So first match. I enjoyed it a good amount, and I like Niyama. I'm kind of like I got friends that like him more, but just me, like Niyama's cool, and I thought he always worked well with Goto, and they work well here. Like they are just working. It's probably the most of the whole show where Goto is just working. Like he's just working a match.
For sure.
We get to the next match. It is Goto versus Takashi Okano, who is probably better known as the Winger.
The Winger!
The Winger has kind of a reputation, at least among the circles I am in, of being shit. And I'm not going to disagree with it.
And being everywhere.
Yes, the Winger is everywhere, and he's never good. And actually, this is like, I also want to say, it's not like, oh, it's just this circle that thinks it's like, no, the Winger is infamous in Japan for being everywhere and sucking. He was there was I can't remember what his nickname was. His nickname was like Mr. Half Effort in Japan. Because he would show up for shows late. Like that was one of his things, is that it was very well known. Winger would always show up to call time late. He would come out, work his match, put very little effort into it, go backstage to like get paid, and then immediately leave. And his he's like a legendary bare effort person in history, because like he would always put the bare minimum in, even with his retirement is incredible, because I think his whole thing, like he has a match in Kirken Hall against Tajiri, who's like very important for Winger's career. Like they were like pretty well tied together, like old friends. Very important for each other. And it was Winger's like anniversary. Winger has this match. Apparently, it's one of the one matches where he really put a lot of effort in, considering the everything going around it. But he does that match. He then leaves for a bit because he has nagging injuries, which is very funny for a guy that never tried. But he has nagging injuries. He has to go.
Yeah.
So he leaves. Then, at some point, people start wondering, hey, Winger's been gone for a while, and those injuries are like bad, but they weren't that bad. And he hasn't really talked to any of us. So I believe Takashi Sasaki calls the Winger's wife, because he doesn't even have the Winger's phone number. He has his wife's phone number.
That's crazy. That's actually crazy.
He calls the Winger's wife, and says, "Hey, we want to book Winger. We want to bring him in for Freedoms because fucking Winger's like a day one Freedoms guy. He's always been there. Like, we want to bring him back. Yeah, how's he doing?" She goes and talks to him, and then she tells Takashi Sasaki, "Winger is fine. He's recovered from his injuries. He just doesn't feel like wrestling anymore, so he's just done." No formal announcement, no anything. The only way that we really know he's done is because eventually all of his like gear showed up for sale on Totagon's website. He had sold all of it to them. There were at one point like 35 different Winger masks for sale on there.
That's so sick.
So yeah,
That's a treasure. I want somebody to mail me a Winger mask. You know, I cherish the Winger mask.
I'm buying one soon. I've
That's
been meaning to buy
crazy.
one for a while, but I need to get one. Like before they're all sold, I have to get one of them.
I'll do anything for a Winger mask.
They're like some of the cheapest masks on the website too. They're only like
Yeah.
40, they're like $30.
Yeah,
And they're like
the
ring
Winger.
worn. They're ring worn masks. And they're like $30.
It's the Winger, dude.
Well, here's the Winger. He is unmasked here, sadly, but he comes out and
Where did Kate go?
what the fuck? He doesn't want to engage in Winger discourse. But the Winger, Winger base god, fucking Winger versus Tarzan Goto. Winger comes in, and actually, I will say, Winger gets like some shine to start out with. He's like throwing some pretty solid shots to the chest. Hits a good crossbody. Hits a tope, which is like very cool to see from the Winger. Big front drop kick. Then Winger goes for a like Terry Funk moonsault and just misses it entirely. Pins Goto. It's a 1 count, of course.
Oh, yeah. Obviously.
And Goto then he throws Goto into the corner. Goto bounces out of the corner and lariats fucking Winger out of his shoes. And at that point, we have gotten into Goto victimizing the Winger for about 6 minutes. We don't have the 6 minutes, but we know it's about 6 minutes.
God bless.
Starts throwing those insane chair shots I was talking about earlier. Grabs an umbrella and starts stabbing him in the face with it. And Winger's like bleeding a bunch, and Goto's like stabbing into the wound. Winger does get a little comeback going. Hits a pretty nice German. And then goes to lariat trade with Goto. This is actually one of like my favorite spots of the whole show because I see this spot a lot nowadays, especially where like two guys, usually two of the big fucking beefy dudes from Big Japan or whatever, they'll do the lariat trade spot, which I have gotten very desensitized to, where they run into each other and they lariat together, and then they take turns running off the ropes and lariating each other and like strengthening up. What happens in this match though is that Okano hits a lariat, he bounces off of Goto, Goto hulks up, runs off the ropes, and then just kills Okano.
Yeah.
Like, Okano doesn't hulk up or anything. He just dies. He immediately dies. Goto diving splash, and that's it.
Call it a day. You can call it a day.
8 minutes. 8-minute match.
Yeah, I think the first two matches just do such a great example of, like you said, establishing two very clear things, which is these guys, in Goto's mind, are cool and should be everywhere. He got his wish with one of them. And secondly, that as cool as they are, he's cooler and should be respected more.
Yeah.
And he makes a pretty tough argument to argue against. He kind of proves everything that he needs.
Yeah. Ethan,
2 matches in, it's kind of impossible to argue with this Tarzan Goto guy.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Ethan, what are you?
Like, that's when it. I mean, the first match was amazing. But like the second match in, where you realize, oh no, Tarzan Goto, he's on one tonight. He's
on one.
No, he's motivated as fuck. He's like, this is, of course we're talking about the declaration. This is his chance to make a real declaration of I am the GOAT and you are all my sons.
But yeah, those 2 matches are just fucking like they are landmarks for Tarzan Goto as a wrestler.
Yeah.
Like not even in like these are some of the best matches he ever had, but in like a statement piece. I am Tarzan Goto. I fuck people up. Let's go. I'm gonna keep fucking people up. I don't know if I could say a 1-2 punch like that you could introduce somebody to with. Somebody.
Yeah, no,
like the biggest. I don't know, John. You go first, actually.
No, I was just gonna say pretty much that secretly, I would think that this fucking the Okano match especially might be like the best introduction you could give to someone for Tarzan Goto. Like in terms of how he wrestles and the type of stuff he does, without going into like the most bloody and violent stuff. If you just want a taste of like this is Tarzan Goto, this is how he wrestles, this is how his brain operates differently from everyone else, like the Okano match is the one. It's short. What we have is even shorter, but it pretty much shows everything when it comes to Goto around this point.
That is great about him.
Yeah, absolutely.
God, he's
Then-
just like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But now is a change. Now we're getting into the tag matches because here comes Ryo Miyake, who I do want to give a little bit of introduction for him. Miyake is a guy who, from just the top of my head, which I should have wrote this down, but I am fairly certain. So Miyake starts in FMW. He starts as one of the shooters because there's this fucking tag team called the Shooters, or Shooter number 1 and Shooter number 2. He starts out as one of the shooters, Shooter number 2. He eventually gets unmasked and just wrestles as Ryo Miyake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Then he moves to Wing. He leaves FMW and eventually joins Wing. And that kind of becomes this thing with Miyake where he is in Wing basically until it dies, and then he just kind of hops around everywhere. Like he's very unsure of where to go. He spends a lot of time in Tokyo Pro, spends a lot of time in NOW, which is Kendo Nagasaki's Fed, and he's pretty much just trying to find his way. And eventually he lands on Tarzan Goto, because Goto was his original trainer in FMW, if memory serves correctly. And Goto is now doing this whole thing with Shin FMW. So Ryo Miyake goes to him and says, hey, I want to join you. And I believe, just from what I've read, he undergoes like a retraining process because Goto's like, hey, I want to rework you. Like, I think we could work on some stuff, and I'm gonna fix you.
I want to shape you into my mold. You are
exactly
going to become me now.
Yeah, like he very much there's a change in Ryo Miyake before and after this. Like Ryo Miyake in Wing is a different wrestler, not like super different. They're pretty similar, but there's a difference in attitude. And Ryo Miyake also goes back to the Black Trunks when he joins with Goto, so he's back to fucking young boy. This is the beginning of him teaming with Goto for the rest of the show, and he is taking on. They are taking Nobukazu Hirai and Ichiro Yaguchi, who is one of the craziest motherfuckers ever. He's got fucking crosses all over him. He comes out carrying a barbed wire cross. Craziest face paint. I have had his face as my fucking Discord image, my Discord PFP, for like years now. He's also an actual like pastor, which is fucking crazy for the gimmick that because his gimmick is that he's an evil pastor, but then in reality he's an actual pastor.
I think that's like one of the coolest facts about a wrestler I've ever learned, dude. It's so sick.
Yeah. Oh,
I hope he shows his matches at like communion or something.
Also, other important thing about him, he's also a professional musician. I think he runs a radio show, like at least one. I think he might run 2. And he does a lot of like jazz music and shit. He's very good. I've heard some of his music. He's like really fucking. He's a guy that he's done pretty much everything. Like he's living a crazy fucking life.
What instrument did he play? Do you know?
Guitar. Plays guitar primarily.
That's awesome. Tried and true. The bread and butter.
Yeah.
Acoustic or electric though?
Acoustic usually, but I've definitely seen him use electric.
Damn.
But of course, starting off the match, Yaguchi attacks Goto with a cross covered in barbed wire, which is awesome. And Hirai goes wild with shit. And this is just a fucking pretty cool match. Like just a very solid match of Miyake and Hirai are taking a lot of like pot shots at each other. Miyake's got like some solid forearms. He throws some. He's a fucking meaty dude. He's got like that like post-roid build almost. Like he looks like soggy, kinda.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But he's also, but like he's like genuinely like a pretty hard fucking hitter, and he's got the fundamentals solidly down. And he's also like a believable victim because like he'll get hit and he'll kind of cry a little bit. But no, Miyake works good with Hirai. Yaguchi gets to do a little bit of stuff, mainly Mongolian chops, but I love Yaguchi, so I was happy. Goto though,
Chops too.
Goto is a house of fucking fire in this match. He's really fucking good here. He goes crazy. Like there's a hot tag eventually, and he just goes wild with chops in the corner and then lariats fucking Hirai out of his shoes. Which I feel like I've said that phrase at least 3 times now, but every single Goto lariat on the show is disgusting.
Yeah, they're the second most brutal thing. It's again testament to the chair shots that somehow these lariats are only the second most ham thing he throws in this.
Yes, like every single one lands with like this really gross like meat on meat slapping noise. Yeah, he's just absolutely brutal with it. And eventually Miyake kind of gets something going. He hits the Hashimoto DDT, like holding the wrist, which is
Hashimoto DDT,
which is gross as fuck. But then Hirai comes back. He's beating the shit out of him. He hits a crazy diving elbow, and then locks in the reverse war special because he's a heel in war, of course. So it's like the Quackenbush fucking the Quackenbush hold where the fucking heels know how to do the reverse version.
The Chikara special.
Yeah, the Chikara special. The war. Oh my god! This one's called the war special.
Yeah,
I didn't
the
even.
reverse war special.
This is the reverse war special. Shades of the reverse Chikara special. But 9 minutes in, Miyake taps out. He has just lost the match for Tarzan Goto. This is not the last time this will happen.
Yeah, he's never. Dude, make it known now. Tarzan Goto is not going to let this guy humiliate him again.
He is. Yeah, not.
It's and you can see it on Goto's face. Like it pans over to him at one point. Goto's just like staring at Miyake, really like upset. He's like, "Why are you losing? You're supposed to. I'm training you. You're supposed to win."
See, the first time he seems upset, which I really appreciate. It goes from upset to, and I'm sorry to spoil it, but it's like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Then he gets mad. Yeah,
then he gets, like, pissed. But, fucking, again, good match. I will say, it's a little weird to talk about the matches themselves for this, because I don't think any match, besides one we will eventually get to, because it's the fucking main event. Besides, like, one match, I don't think any of these are, like, great. I think they serve their purpose really fucking well, but they're not, like, setting the world on fire. But I think it's really interesting to talk about how they serve their purpose well. And also, again, beyond Goto, this is also meant to be kind of a showcase for the guys they're wrestling, and it does a pretty damn good job of that.
Yeah, and again, like I agree, like none of these matches, even the main event, and I like the main event, but I wouldn't recommend any of these matches in a vacuum to anyone. But I would recommend the show to anyone. Like,
yes,
I'd recommend anyone watch this tape 100% because like it's fun as hell. It rules. It's sick.
Yeah.
And I think it's the parts are not as great as the whole, but the whole vastly is greater than the parts.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But yeah, again, good match. I love Yaguchi. Love Hirai. Fucking beginning of Miyake's trials. The next match, I mentioned at the start that there's one guy on the show who is probably the most well-known. Okay, maybe there's one other guy who comes in after this that might be more well-known. But the guy we're about to talk about next is like a big fucking deal. It is Goto and Miyake against Rikio Ito and Masaki Mochizuki.
Dude, Mochizuki coming out. I never in a million jillion years thought I'd see Masaki Mochizuki on this.
Yeah, so this is...
I had like a sneaking suspicion that he might be on there because he was on a Kitao Pro show in like 1995, so a few years before this, and it's like one of the coolest matches I've ever seen. It's him versus my man, and this is a match that John recommended to me back a long time ago, like 6 or 7 months ago, when I was thinking about doing my favorite matches under 8 minutes video, and that one is fucking unbelievable. It's Masaki Mochizuki versus Masanobu Kurisu in what is like proto blood sport. kind of run,
Yes.
where there's no ropes. And the finish to that match is maybe the craziest finish I've seen to a match that doesn't involve like any gimmicks or props or set pieces.
I think
Because
I'll be honest. I
Mochizuki-
think it's like a top 5 finish ever for me. It's legitimately one of the grossest finishes I've ever seen because, and it's fine. We might talk about this eventually, but by the time we do, it'll be a while from now. The finish
Yeah.
is Mochizuki, like, because Mochizuki gets owned the whole match. He finally gets like a miracle combo off, and then he throws a head kick, like a kick that goes directly to Kurisu's jaw. Kurisu's
Wait,
like
is Kurisu
stunned.
seated?
Hmm?
Is Kurisu seated for this, or is he standing?
No, he's standing. He's standing.
Oh,
he
yeah,
gets
yeah.
kicked in the jaw, and he's like barely able to stand next to the where the apron cuts off. And again, there's no ropes. Fucking Mochizuki throws this head kick. Kurisu's like stunned. Mochizuki just shoves him, and Kurisu goes back off of the ring and lands head first on the cement floor, and then loses by count out because he is fucked. Like it's legitimately incredible. But yeah, Mochizuki, for anyone that does not know, did not start in Dragon Gate. He's not trained by Ultimo. He has no connection to Ultimo Dragon. Actually, no, he has a very light connection.
We need to normalize countout finishes more.
Oh my god, fucking! I love the countout. I love the countout so much. I actually am a strong agenda pusher for countouts.
I love countouts, dude. They're so sick.
They're good.
But Mochizuki started in wrestling, trained by Koji Katao. In I believe it was mainly karate, but Koji Katao also integrated a lot of his karate guys into wrestling. He trained them all. Mochizuki is one of the ones that became a wrestler. He works with Katao for a few years, and through Katao, he works in war because Katao and Tenryu are like fucking they work together a lot. And through that, he works here because Goto is also in like the war sphere of influence. And I guess just one fun fact is that the reason that Toryumon in Japan exists the way it does is because I believe the Toryumon like promotion merged with Katao Dojo, and one of the Katao Dojo trainees, Takashi Okamura, becomes the president of Toryumon and eventually the president of Dragon Gate. Taru, who's also like a vital part of early Toryumon and Dragon Gate, he's another Koji Katao trainee. Like, secretly, Koji Katao is like one of the most important people in Dragon Gate history.
Yeah.
He'll never get the respect that he deserves.
No, he won't. But
not by the gate openers, at least.
Masaki Mochizuki, he's here with Rikio Ito, who there's not much to say about
crazy.
him.
No, there's something to say about him. He's throwing some insane kicks, bro.
Well, no, not Mochizuki. There's a lot to say about him. His tag partner, Rikio Ito, there's not a ton to say about him.
You're right.
The one big important thing is that he is like very obviously on the juice. He is so gassed, and he has crazy weird gear. And he really doesn't do a lot in this match.
Like
he just hits some body slams.
Like a fucking roadmap.
He genuinely reminded me of Beef Wellington for some reason.
Yes, I actually can see that. Yeah,
he had Beef Wellington vibes, but without the raw power of Beef Wellington at all.
Instead, he's a walking muscle. But yeah, he's here. He doesn't really do a lot, but Masaki Mochizuki, man, is so fucking good in this match. Like, if you want to talk about watching this tape and be like, okay, who's the one guy who's gonna like break out? Like, it's fucking Mochizuki. Like, obviously. Yeah.
Or the other man.
The other man gets his own fucking spots in the next match, and eventually, you see that and you're like, okay. But also, the way he breaks out is entirely different from what you see here. But Mochizuki, he's in the zone, throwing a lot of hard kicks.
He's got the speedball fit too.
Yes, because he's it's a crazy thing to say. Because like,
yeah,
no, you're right. You're right though. You're right.
That's the way history works. The thing that I found first is what influences the thing I found second.
Call it the speedball fit when it's a gi is insane.
No, I was referring to like the kick pads.
Oh, yeah. All right, you're right. I agree. But yeah, Mochizuki, Mochizuki and fucking Miyake work really well together because Miyake's just doing like very beefy shit, and Mochizuki is responding by like throwing really loud kicks and like just beating the shit out of him. But I gotta say, the Goto Mochizuki stuff is insane. Like they have really good chemistry together, and I think if we got more of that and it was like just a singles match, like I'd say like, oh, that's something I just recommend flat out because like they were doing really great work together. I think Miyake again more than held his own. Miyake hit it like an insane shotgun kick at one point, and then that led into Goto throwing a really nasty lariat. And yeah, just fucking great work. Mochizuki does like the Sankaku Gary. He does the UFO, the diving, spinning kneel kick. And then Miyake loses again via powerbomb from Rikyo Ito.
No. He lost to Pseudo Beef Wellington, dude.
He lost to Pseudo Beef.
He lost because Goto was too distracted beating the shit out of Mochizuki.
Yes. Yeah, they get like Mochizuki and Goto go outside and they start brawling, and there's this awesome moment when like Mochizuki's like pasting him with all these kicks, and then Goto catches a kick and just shoves Mochizuki head first into the chairs.
Like, the chair shot. By the way, before we the chair shot that Goto hits on Mochizuki. If Jay and Mark Briscoe didn't exist, I think it'd be my favorite chair shot of all time.
Yeah.
If you were to remove Jay and Mark Briscoe from history, this is the best chair shot ever, dude. It's so succinct and it's so perfect, and the angle's so great because it cuts off, so you can't actually see where the chair flies after it hits, but you just see it enter the stratosphere and presumably hit the moon.
Yeah, and I will say that's a point that I wanted to bring up, and I know I like write it down later, but the like camera work on the show is like really fucking good. Like it's really well produced. There's a lot of really nice like setting up shots, like establishing shots throughout.
Yeah.
When we get to the main event, I'm going to talk more about that because there's like a minute long segment that I have like gifted before because I think it's like one of the best shots I've ever seen in wrestling. But like everything about this show in terms of production is like fucking stellar. And I think if there's any like promoters listening, God fucking forbid, please just watch this tape for fucking like information on how to shoot a show, because everything here is really well done and really like well executed. And I think that there's a lot to learn in that regard. But again, very good match. 7 minutes long. And these times are all important. We're gonna get back to this. It's fucking illusion, as they say. But yeah, 7-minute match, good match. Now, the penultimate match of the show, 6-man tag match. Goto and Miyake are teaming up with the third Shin FMW trainee, the third member, the second person to put themselves under Tarzan Goto. It's a man sitting in a Cactus Jack shirt for his interview.
Dude, the Cactus Jack shirt is so sick. It's such a raw image, man.
It's like the original, the fucking Wanted Dead or Alive one. Like it's so good. And the man himself, Mitsunobu Kikuzawa, who is probably better known as Kikutaro. Which fucking wow.
What a guy.
If you're not tuned in to like anything he did before he put the mask on, that's bizarre. Like the first time I learned that, I was like stun locked because he's
I just learned it for the first time here, and I was like aghast for like 5
minutes. Because it's weird. It's weird to think that this fucking like comedy guy is like hanging out with. He's fucking training under Tarzan Goto.
He had like a crazy pre-Kikutaro career, didn't he? Like I've heard tons of stories about the guy.
I will say I'm a strong pusher for like pre-Kikutaro Kikuzawa. Is he starts out doing like lucha shit, and he trains under Masanobu Kurisu, which fucking I'm about to tell you the 3 guys he mainly like trained under. Fucking insane lineup. Do. He trains under Kurisu. Then actually it's 4 people. He trains under Kurisu. Then he goes to FULL, which might still be UWF at this point, and trains under Gran Hamada. So he learns like lucha from Gran Hamada. He started out with Kurisu. Then he comes here and he trains under Goto and starts working with him. And that leads into him getting under Onita and training under Onita and doing like a bunch of like massive brawls with Onita. I genuinely believe if you look at Kikuzawa's work before he joined Osaka Pro, from like the beginnings of like the 90s to like whenever he like up to like the early 2000s, which he's in Osaka Pro at that point, like up to then when he's still working on Master Lot, like he's really, really fucking good. And he looks like a guy that was gonna be like the next big deal when it came to like deathmatch brawling. And he didn't do that, which fucking is probably a good move. You know, he became a comedy guy, and I imagine that's a very, you know, I'm not trying to talk shit about comedy guys. I listen, I like the funny haha. I'm not saying I don't, but objectively speaking, it's probably a lot easier to be a comedy guy than it is to be a deathmatch guy in terms of the wear and tear. So, you know, I'm not faulting Kikuzawa, but at the same time, man, him as a junior in this point, and then him as a deathmatch guy like soon after this, fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But
The wild case of what could have been.
oh my god. But Kikuzawa's very good here. He does some crazy dives, which I love. The first one he like almost dies on, and then Goto like rolls out, grabs Kikuzawa, throws him back into the ring, and then grabs like whoever he hit the dive on and just holds him there and yells at Kikuzawa, "Do it again!"
Yeah,
And he does. And he does the Santo dive, like a fucking missile, like a bullet through the
Dude,
rope.
the Santo
and
dive
he,
was
like,
good. And he does it twice. He does it twice.
He does it, and he splats on the floor both times. Yeah, he's like going crazy in this match. Fucking Ganosuke clutch from him. Team Tokyo Pro, it's fucking Kishin Kawabata, Shunmei Matsuzaki, and Shigeo Okamura, which is like a crazy lineup because fucking Kawabata eventually becomes like a mid-carder or like a lower mid-carder for Noah for like 10 fucking years. And Okamura moves to Mexico and becomes like the Japan liaison for CMLL, and he's still working there this day. But all these guys, like all these fucking Tokyo Pro guys are good. Like they're very well, like they have all their fucking work down. Kishin Kawabata looks like a monster in this match because he takes incredible liberties on Ryo Miyake. They're like slapping, like he's slapping and headbutting the shit out of him, and like just standing there and taking everything Miyake is doing and just like not registering it.
He's like a wall. He's like an actual wall.
So, you know, they're fighting. Eventually, Matsuzaki comes in, and Matsuzaki does some good stuff with Miyake. But I'm a big guy I'm like a big fan of Miyake, or not Miyake, Matsuzaki. And his best shit is when he's like selling and dying. And of course, that leads to Goto victimizing him for the whole like rest of the match before the finish. And he hits some crazy chair shots, but specifically, he hits a chair shot where he like uppercuts Matsuzaki with the rim of the chair into the neck.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
Oh my god.
It's so gross.
That's like the type of shit that you'd only come up with if you've thrown enough chairs at enough people to think, how can I make this look even worse and more dangerous and more awful for the person taking it?
It's definitely something from somebody who's just like, I've done enough of these, I gotta spice it up.
Yes, like I legitimately when I was watching, my first thought was like, oh, this is something that fucking Kurisu would do. And that because that's the exact thing of like Kurisu throws a lot of chair shots and he throws them a lot of different ways because he's learned how to do it so well. And that's the same thing with Goto. But they just, you know, it's a really fun little match, and the match ends with Miyake shockingly is isolated, and then Kishin Kawabata hits a super duper fucked up diving senton and pins him, and Miyake loses once again. Although I do want to note that right before he loses, it cuts to the brawling, and you can see Tarzan Goto throwing Okamura onto a couch that's just randomly backstage.
I love that.
Yeah, Miyake loses. Goto goes back in, slaps the dog shit out of him, and then grabs a chair and bashes it over his head.
Dude, he is livid. He's livid. He's absolutely fuming about it. And you know what? I'll say it. He's justified.
He
Tarzan Goto
is!
innocent. Tarzan Goto
Okay,
innocent.
all right. Let's put some hesitation behind that because we gotta go
No,
into the
period. Exclamation point.
No. We gotta go into the main event, brother.
Tarzan, OJ Simpson, Goto. You did nothing.
Whoa,
Okay.
whoa,
Whoa. I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that.
whoa, no glove, brother.
Good evening, SMW world.
Good evening, FMW. But yeah, again, as I've said like 4 times now, good match. I enjoyed it, and again, great showcase for all the guys involved. But fucking Tarzan Goto is a monster, and Kikuzawa is also really cool, and everything has been building to this. This is when we get like the best cinematography of the whole thing because it shows on the screen big English text main event, and it cuts to Goto talking, and interlaced in his talking there is footage of them assembling this ring of torment with barbed wire wrapped around the ropes and barbed wire boards in the fucking corners, and barbed wire boards on the floor.
My
Like,
favorite aspect of these types of like examples of like, oh, look at this evil diabolical thing we're making right now has always been the close-up shots, but like close-up shots that make everything feel constrained.
yes,
I love the close-up shots in this because everything that's like when they're showing you the barbed wire, it's like, yo, look at this barbed wire. That's all you can see. They don't catch any other part of the arena. They don't even catch the roof or even the mat. They just catch this thing. It's like, holy shit, and it's all that you can see, and it feels very constraining.
it does.
Especially when you were to contrast it to the one like roof shot they have of like the weird Satan pentagram they've got up there, and like you could see all this space and like the diabolical star thing is like in this vacuum, and it's like it's cool and it's imposing, and it cuts back to just this hard shot of the more wickedness that they got in the ring.
Yeah,
It is a sweet ass visual, and it really sets up what's about to happen tremendously.
which is of course the death of Ryo Miyake, because this is a singles match, barbed wire board death match, Tarzan Goto versus his student Ryo Miyake.
The man who has
One-
cost him so dearly.
Yeah, Goto has lost all 3 of his last matches because Miyake got pinned. And I do want to note, Miyake comes out here, he like walks in, he is like huffing and puffing, gasping for air already. The match hasn't even started yet, and he's been in 3 tags. Goto has been in 5 matches overall. Goto has been in 5 matches overall. He's not even registered it. He's fine. He's like perfectly fine. And I've, again, from the reading that I've done on this match, like this whole show, it seems like there weren't a lot of breaks. It seems like they really just kept the matches moving as much as they could. There was a break between like the last match and the main event to set everything up, but I believe based on like just the footage, there's a chance that like Goto never even went backstage until like in between the semi-main and the main. He just stayed in the ring the whole time. So he's been wrestling for like an hour now, and he's
I also think that means that he's just been audibling for an hour too, probably.
Yes. Like
he's just been winging it for an hour.
For a whole fucking hour. And he's still got a 20-minute match. And what the fucking hell? I understand. I think that to a certain extent I love this match as much as I do because I am a Goto freak. And I think this guy is like maybe the best ever, and he's like maybe my favorite wrestler ever. But this is like a really, really great match to me. Like I think this is a great match in terms of like torment. a torturous match for Ryo Miyake, who is put through hell.
Tortured artist.
Yeah. Goto is just in the full zone here. There's no point in doing a spot breakdown on this. It's just Goto, he's in his element. Ryo Miyake is barely alive to begin with, and now he is being killed over and over again.
Mm-hmm. He tried to clutch up by like giving himself like the Takayama slick back hair, but it was it's clear that was just like him trying to like not look owned, when in reality moment Tarzan Goto stepped in, the fact of the matter made itself clear.
Yeah.
He was trying so hard to like make himself look good and strong in front of his trainer, but at some point the mask has to slip. And at that
the
moment,
mask.
the mask slips.
Well, the moment the mask slips was 3 matches ago, brother.
Yeah.
Well, now Miyake is trying to poorly reapply the mask, and it's not working, bro. I'm gonna be honest. It looks less like, oh, I'm putting on my best fucking my best look for my best match, and it looks more like how they prepare bodies after they die. You got to
Yes.
make them look their best when they get in the casket. Like, that's Miyake. Miyake has gotten his best dressed on because he knows he is doomed. And he is doomed. Goto kills him. Goto brutalizes him, throws him into the barbed wire, constantly is hitting moves in the barbed wire, and finally, after the whole show of it not happening, it finally does. They go outside. Goto is killing him, and it looks at Miyake. Miyake's bleeding already, and then you hear the sound of glass breaking.
Yeah.
And old Stone Cold comes out. Fucking Goto has broken a bottle against the ring post, and now he is walking towards Ryo Miyake with a broken bottle. And he just stabs him. He just stabs him in the face a bunch. And then he grabs his arm and he stabs him in the shoulder. And eventually it pans over and you can see the stab wound.
And you mentioned before in some of the Twilight Zone episodes, but yeah, the glass bottle breaking is a staple of Tarzan Goto.
It is.
And so, like you said, it was definitely something that was going to happen, especially if Bro was wrestling on a whole card. But knowing that he saved it just for this, just to really kill this guy who made him lose, it really is that, like, he's such an evil guy. He's like maybe the most evil wrestler ever, man. Like,
Yeah.
just a true maniacal beast. And you could take this guy that he's literally training and not find any pity or like sympathy in him at all. He's not like, well, this is some stuff that we got to work on once we get back to the dojo. It's like, nah, I just got to kill you, man.
Yeah. He's outright like beckoning Miyake to fight on too. And it's like, to a certain extent, you'd be like, oh, there is an aspect of he's his trainer and he's trying to see like, hey, Miyake's cost me these 3 matches. Is this guy worth anything? Like,
No.
Is he able to keep fighting? And, Miyake does kind of fucking prove himself. He eventually fights back. He throws Goto into a barbed wire board in the corner and the board explodes. Like, he finds a way to fight back. And the fans are like behind him. The fans are chanting for him.
Yeah.
And that's, I really don't even remember if there were any chants before that on the show. I think the fans are like some chanting probably, but like mostly locked in.
None that made tape, at least. None that made tape.
Yeah. But this is like, they're very vocal about Miyake, and it's really nice to see Miyake finally get to fight back. It doesn't matter, it really doesn't, because eventually Goto does cut him off, and he's just back to killing him. And I almost forgot to mention it, but Goto on the show, he throws like some of the signature Goto uppercuts, which I think are some of the like best punches ever. I fucking love them, and I'm very upset that like nobody does them nowadays.
It's really a shame that it's one of those things that has gone down, like that has not stuck around when so many things that I don't like in wrestling have stuck around.
I think,
You know?
and I think the big thing with him is that was a very Goto move. Like, the only other guy that was throwing punches like that was like Great Kabuki, and even then they were different. It's just, it's sad. Like, there is one guy, fucking Guts Ishijima, who is a self-admitted Tarzan Goto tribute wrestler. He does it, but like nobody else does, and it's weird because they're incredible punches. But also in this match, he throws like normal wrestling punches.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking move. Tarzan Goto's normal wrestling punches are also incredible, and he throws some of them where they're making like audible connection on Miyake's forehead. And Miyake is like crying in the corner, bleeding out, getting punched in the face. And it's not footage you're meant to see. It's gross. It's
awesome.
awful. And it's so good.
Generally, the only note that I would add to the match as a whole, I mean, I just really wish that Goto took a chair shot to the head. It would have been the most cathartic moment of the night if he finally took a chair shot to the dome. But at the same time, I understand why he wouldn't, because it's a trainee. It's a trainee who just got bodied 3 matches in a row.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes sense that Goto would just dominate him, and he did.
Yeah, and eventually, I will also say Miyake does do the, he's still got the spirit. Like, Goto hits like power bombs into barbed wire, Miyake's repeatedly kicking out. And then eventually Goto chokes him into the barbed wire and just immediately picks him up, power bombs him one more time. And the power bomb does it. 3 count, that's it. 19 minutes. Goto has an even win-loss record at the end of the night.
Finally.
What a guy. What a guy.
And at the end of the night, again, important note, there were tag matches. Goto got to hang out on the apron. But from the stuff we saw, he was pretty fucking active in all those matches. But in terms of the full runtime, the matches went about 73 minutes. And Goto was in all of them. And he's, once again, after this barbed wire death match, generally fine. Miyake is gasping harder than I have seen like any other wrestler. He's bleeding out.
Hold on, you said 73 minutes, right?
Yes.
Hold on, I just really need to check something.
He's got to catch up on the bloodline, dude.
he's catching up on Tamatonga.
Oh my god. Oh my god damn it, I'm upset. But you know what? Tarzan Goto wrestled for 1 minute less than Bryan Danielson and Austin Aries in that Testing the Limit match.
Oh my god. That's a crazy comparison.
That's sick.
But I see
4 minutes and 12 seconds versus.
Well, if you count,
and which one had better spots, and which one was cooler and more memorable?
if you count the post-match Inoki homage, then I think he did it. He outlasted him.
That is true. There's also a lot of in between for the entrances and the brawling. So if you count all that together, maybe it goes up to like 76. So Goto wins once again. And again, important note: Goto's a fat motherfucker. Like,
yes,
the Danielson Aries match. Aries is like a specimen, and Danielson is not fat. He's like built. Like Goto is like chunky. He's got like chins with an S at the end. And he's a stamina monster. But yeah, Goto gets the win. He's got that, like,
the offensive lineman build where they're guys, but they can they have more endurance than anybody you've ever met.
Yeah. So that is the end of the final match. That's not the end of the tape, though. Goto gives a speech. He pulls the strap down, which is very funny that he never pulled it down in any of the matches. But he finally gets out. He's like, "All right, I'm gonna let my stomach breathe." Pulls his stomach down.
He's finally let his guard down, if you will.
Yeah, cuts a promo, calls everyone out, says some praise about pretty much everyone, from what I can tell, and then he goes through. And he does the Inoki slap to every single wrestler on the show, and then gets them all to do the arms up pose with him. And it is it's fucking cool. It's really fucking cool to see. Like I really wish that episode was not lost, because I gave a big speech near the end about Goto's contribution and how much he is like secretly one of the most important people. I'm gonna do it. I don't think I'll be able to channel it. But
I just wanted to say one thing, because you put this thought into my fucking head, and now I can't get it out, and I am very upset by it.
Bro curse.
I'm very upset by it. You did a comment about pulling the strap down and letting his stomach breathe. Made me think, oh my god, what does that singlet smell like after this night?
Okay.
Dude, you're a freak. You're a freak a week, bro.
That was like so much vitriol on your heart. You're like, I fucking hate you, John, for putting this in my head. It's just that.
Brother, he's gotta let it waft, brother. he's
Oh my god, the smell in that venue. That would probably be a weapon that you could use against people.
Yeah.
In like a controlled environment. Is that why they wanted him to be Shoko Asahara? Jesus.
Oh my god, ow, my head hurts. Oh, Jesus Christ. You can't just say that, you fucker. You fucker.
I had to.
Ow. Okay. All right. So
out of the Tarzan Goto speech.
So Tarzan
Oh my
Goto.
god, dude.
Tarzan Goto. Listen,
Oh.
Tarzan Goto, one of the most important people in Japanese wrestling history. A fucking absolute wonderful man from all accounts. You know, his training was pretty fucking hard. And he had a somewhat of a legacy. A lot of the FMW guys, whenever he left, he kind of had a lot of enemies because a lot of the FMW guys were people he trained, and they didn't like him because he was a fucking hard ass trainer. Um, but at the same time, he was loved by a lot of people. He When he started doing all this stuff in the mid to late 90s in the indies, there's a lot of people that speak really fondly of it, people that were watching, people that were participating in it. And eventually in the 2000s, he continues that. You know, he turned Shin FMW into Goto IPA, which is basically his fed for all of his trainees to get bookings and like go places. And he sets up connections for them to work. His trainees are working in Kirk and Hall for Onita, like in the early 2000s. Like he's a guy that always tried his best to get his students like opportunities. He also, because he's the fucking goat, runs this. He's involved in this promotion called Dynamite Bump, which is or Dynamite Vamp. It's one of the two. I cannot remember.
Dynamite Vamp.
Dynamite Vamp. You're right. And it is a promotion of all trans women. He's the trainer for it. The main star of it, Reina Ayukawa, becomes like a daughter to him. And it's just fucking. He's just the best. And I'm not able to fully formulate the same thoughts that I had before when I did this for the Lost episode 4. But this is all to say that Goto, beyond everything, is one of the most important people in the indies for Japanese wrestling and just in general for Japanese wrestling, both for what he did in the ring and what he did out of it. And this show itself is not only a showcase of what he's capable of doing in the ring, there's also something to be said about the fact that this is a show that showcases what he's doing out of it. Because this whole show is organized not only to put himself over, but also to show all these fucking crazy dudes who are pretty damn good at wrestling and he has faith in. Like, he was calling that Masaki Mochizuki would be a big deal in 97. You know, he was calling that he fucking was training Kikuzawa. Like, he's a fucking dude that was tuned in and was trying to like reform the indie scene. That's what the whole thing with the social reform was. He was trying to fix the indies that at the time were starting to eat themselves alive. It's weird to think about because that's something we've been talking about nowadays.
Oh, what's even
Is
crazy?
that
What's crazy also is that these people that like Tarzan found, or maybe not even found, but like wanted to put on a certain level of spotlight, or the people that he trained themselves, none of them replicate him in any way.
No.
They're all people that he independently respects, but they're never people he would independently want to like associate with by way of like having a similar style, and they wouldn't want to do it either. It's like just this mutual agreement that like the thing that they have in common is that they want indie wrestling in Japan to be a certain level, and that's where they like have their community, and that's why they respect one another. Because Mochizuki, Kikutaru, Tarzan Goto all went completely different directions.
Yeah.
But they all agreed though that like that's important. And as so
Yeah.
long as like indie wrestling or had these guys, like it was important, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I really just, the only thing I can say is that this was a time when the indie scene was starting to get a little bit sensitive. I know around this time things were starting to get heated between a lot of indies. The entire situation with Tenryu and the Triple F organization, that all just happened, which I'm not even going to explain. I'm just going to say that somebody tried to start an indie wrestling NWA. Tenryu hated the people involved and basically killed it because he hated the people involved. And there was a lot of heat between a lot of different people, and the indies were starting to eat themselves alive. And Goto is one of the main reasons that it thrived going into the 2000s because of everything he was doing, everything he was organizing with the independents. And this is a show that kind of celebrates that while also celebrating the fact Tarzan Goto fucking rocks.
He always will rock.
He always fucking. So, with that being said, Ethan's a guy that loves games, but I am also a fan of
game
games.
guy.
I'm a big game guy too.
Big game guy, Jom.
Big game guy, Jom, and I believe I have a game.
I wouldn't say that you're such a big game guy that you know what they call you. I don't know if you've heard this, but the streets are calling you Matt Pat.
Well, I have a theory about that.
Nah, select circles have been calling you that, dude. If
Yeah.
you're in like the right area, right neighborhood. Oh yeah.
They'll shout me out as Matt Pat like Hulk Hogan on the street getting called the Woodmaster.
Dude, I've seen them like graffiti art on walls about this in like certain parts of the town.
I mean, hey, I'm happy that people appreciate my games, but I got one here, and we are not going to finish it today. This is the first time in the podcast. We're gonna have to do this over 2 weeks. This one's gonna take a little bit.
Ooh.
But what I want you to do is I want each of us to pick one wrestler that will be in a Tarzan Goto-esque situation. They will be working 5 matches on a show. Back to back to back to back to back. I want you to pick that wrestler. Then, what I want you to do, and we may not have time for this, so we may just cut it off. But I want you to pick that wrestler, give an explanation of why or whatever, and then we're just gonna rapid fire pick wrestlers. You're gonna pick 9 other people. The way this is gonna format, and I'll put it in the Discord server so you can read it, but it's going to be the main guys in every single match.
Whoa.
You're gonna pick 10 other people. Gonna be in every single match. 2 singles matches to start. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna fucking change it on the fly. 4 matches,
Whoa.
just because I think too many people. 4 matches. Singles match, tag match, 6-man tag, and then a main event. Main event's gonna have a gimmick. You can decide on that, whatever fucking gimmick you want. But this whole thing is basically just kind of doing the Tarzan Goto thing, just cutting one of the tags and one of the singles. And also important note is that whoever he teams with for the 2 tag matches, like the consistent partner, that is also who he wrestles. Is what I meant to write down here, but I'm an idiot.
Main event
So
instead of 10, right?
yes, yeah, 3.
All right, three is getting a lot of work.
He's getting a lot of work. He's basically doing the same thing that Goto's doing, except since we cut it down.
Yeah, 3 is pulling some heavy numbers here.
Pulling some heavy numbers. So, if anyone wants to go first, they can. Otherwise, I can go first.
I think you might just have to.
That's
Okay,
fair.
I'll let you
Give
both
some.
just hit me from the heavens. I think I must go first.
Oh wait, you want to go first?
I have an idea that just came to me all of a sudden.
All right.
Before
we do it, I do just want to say, fucking, just fair understanding. Don't draft the same people if you can, and also, we're just doing the main guy now because I feel like it'd be unfair for you to pick everyone now.
yeah.
But Ethan, take the floor.
So my main guy is somebody that I'm choosing specifically because 1, I am pushing him for a very specific agenda, and 2,
oh my God, he's doing Slim J.
Not Slim J.
Oh shit!
And 2, it's a man who I think can elevate other people to his level better than pretty much anybody else ever.
Oh, he's doing Tenryu.
Jom, I'm stealing your first pick from the draft we're doing right now. Give me Dick Togo.
Oh,
whoa!
Fuck you! Whoa. Oh, I'm so pissed. I shouldn't have let you go first. I shouldn't have let you go first. I was gonna pick Dick Togo, you piece of shit. You piece of trash. Oh, I'm taking.
What was that sound?
Dude, he was revving the engine.
Oh my God. Okay, that was a blender. You were just a blender for a second.
I'm revving the Dick Togo machine. I'm revving the Togo monster truck right now.
Togo monster truck.
On one side, Che Guevara on the other, and on the wheels, the rims for the wheels are the hammer and sickle.
Dude,
wow,
that's crazy. That's crazy. Massive proletariat, Dick Togo.
Oh my god. Okay,
The anti-bourgeois monster truck is a crazy visual. That's crazy. The class destroyer.
Yes. I would put like a bulldozer front on it and call it the Clash Dozer.
Wow. Well, god damn.
Oh man.
Well,
man.
Cake, if you want to, you can go first, but otherwise, I can take the floor.
Man, I'll let you keep going. I'm still thinking.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, Ethan, you piece of shit. I had to go back to the mind lab and reconsider what I was going to do here because Dick Togo was my choice. But there are a number of very good wrestlers in this world who I think
At least a couple
who I think could do this. And there's one guy who I have thought about this type of thing kind of before, but I've never, I never really thought about it all the way. But in this situation, I think he would do great. You know what? Yeah, I'm just gonna take it. I'm gonna take Yuki Ishikawa.
Oh wow.
Oh, big
wow.
one.
I think Ishikawa's the move. There was one other guy who I was strongly considering for this, but I decided Ishikawa's the move.
No, that's entirely fair.
That's a great pick for something like this.
Oh yeah, that's huge, dude. That's huge.
I think that because Ishikawa just I don't think he's never really done something like this before in his career, at least if I've thought of. Like the closest I can think of is when he worked that match at PWFG, and then after he got to have a sparring match with Inoki. That's really the only thing. So I think this type of situation would be cool. Let alone the gimmick match in the main event.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my pick, Yuki Ishikawa and
Cake. Yeah, I think well, for two things, I think I want to also try and accomplish the vision that Goto had on the show of it trying to be a representation of what he wants indie wrestling to hopefully look like in the future. I want to keep that same vibe. I don't want this to just be, wouldn't it be crazy if this guy ran 4 matches in a row and like, wouldn't that be crazy? I want to try and keep the same vibe of like, yeah, it is crazy that he's doing 4 matches in a night, but also it's for a greater cause. It's for a bigger vision, if you will. And so I think I got to go with a guy who is no stranger to multiple matches in one night, and I think is a guy who also had a vision when he made PWG. I got to go Super Daniel.
Oh,
I'm putting Super Daniel through the gauntlet.
Oh my god! Wow.
Every single match is going to be 40 minutes at least.
He's going through the gauntlet, brother. He is going through the gauntlet. It's gonna be pre-Necro Super Dragon, so he can actually make it all the way.
Oh,
holy
good.
shit!
Good.
Yeah, fucking pre-killed himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-victimization.
Also, John, I know you said that we were all just going to give our first picks, but I was hit with a divine light yet again, and I need to let you know about my second
no.
Oh, dude,
I was going to say
extra credit in the game.
I was going to say that let's run through. Let's not super long explanation for each because we got to wrap it up soon. But let's just get figured out now who we're all going to have for the fucking the actual pool for this, and then by the time we come back next week, we'll have the cards built. You don't have to say what spot they're going to be in. Just pick the names, you know?
I have a name in mind, and it's specifically because Cake made the comment about wanting to keep it to Tarzan Goto's original vision. But for this, I don't want to keep it to Tarzan Goto's vision specifically. I want it to be a massive ego trip for Dick Togo's self.
Man.
Dick Togo is so good that he can elevate wrestlers that I think are pretty weak.
Yeah.
And speaking of wrestlers who I think are pretty weak.
Okay. Blake Christian! Holy shit.
One half of that name is quite close. But
Christian
I originally
Cage!
thought of this. I originally thought of this because I thought it would be really, really, really funny just to have these two names against each other. But then I realized I think Dick Togo is like the main guy who could get something good out of him. And you're very close with Christian Cage because it's Dick
God.
versus Edge.
Oh man.
Oh my god. Dude, we're Edge and Dick in the fucking Scramble Bunkhouse Deathcast.
It was him or the Goon.
You're a freak. You're actually a freak.
And I didn't want to waste
dude.
my tag team match on him, Dick Togo, and God, who was I going to put him with? Oh, I was going to put him with Big Dick Johnson versus the Goon
Oh
in
my
the
god.
Edge.
Wait,
You're
Ethan, I need you to like shut the hell up for 1 second. I've been hit with a different light. I'm actually removing my idea. Super Dragon is gone. I'm no longer doing
Oh?
Super Dragon.
Okay.
I've been gifted a vision.
No.
I am going to put the Fiend as my selection.
Oh my god! No!
I am doing the
Oh my
Fiend.
god!
And step one, his first opponent, the Boogeyman.